start paying homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. So as you have known the Pali words Dhamma, when we say the Dhamma, it also covers the Four Noble Truths, or it also called the truth. So we also have Vijaya, another Pali words. Vijaya means investigation. So if we combine these two Pali words together, Dhamma Vijaya means investigation, the truth. So we can also understand the investigations of the noble truth. Now we also have to understand Dhamma Vijaya as wisdom, because it also has the nature of wisdom. So we have one Bali definition. Yata Svabhava Pativeda Lakkhano. The characteristics of Dhamma Vijaya is penetrating dhammas or things according to their intrinsic nature or individual essence. Every single ultimate reality, there is their own nature or their own characteristics. So we also have to know that when we can know the Four Noble Truths or the ultimate reality, this is really called wisdom. So we also have to understand that when we have wise intentions or when we have wisdom, then we will come to know Four Noble Truths. Then we also have another definition. Akalita Pativeda Lakkhano wa Kusali Sasa Kita. Okay, here we got like a short penetration. So when we have wisdom, we can definitely penetrate the Dhamma, like penetration of an arrow shot by a skillful archer. So that means if an archer is skillful, then he could penetrate the target easily. He could hit the target easily, and he could also penetrate even very small things. Then we have another definition. With your bahasa raso, the function is to eliminate the objects, like a lamp. A lamp will show the visual object clearly. Then I will elaborate later. We have another definition, asamo hapatupatano. That means the manifestation is as clarity of perspective. It also loses discernment, or it's also like a good guide in the forest. So if we don't have good guides, we can get lost in the forest. But now, when we have wisdom, is a good guide, we're gonna get lost even we are in the forest. So here, when we talk about Dhamma Vijaya, we also say how to develop the enlightenment fetter of investigation. That means we have to upgrade our wisdom, or we have to upgrade our knowledge. We also upgrade our skill. So everywhere, when we are skillful, or when we are knowledgeable, we can get everything we want. So in modern community, we can also easily know that many people are trying to upgrade their knowledge, their skill, their experiences. So to upgrade our skill and knowledge, we have to learn a lot, we have to train a lot. Even in worldly life or household life, we have to upgrade our knowledge and skill every day, every moment. Then in ordinary life, or when we are going to develop Dhamma, we have to upgrade our skill and knowledge more. Then when we are skillful enough, in the case of the Dhamma, then we can achieve any attainment. We can also attain any kind of higher attainment. So in the definition, I have already explained. Wisdom is like the light or the brightness. So in the dark room, we cannot see the truth. We cannot see visible objects. Now, similarly, if we don't have enough wisdom, we cannot see the truth. We cannot know the truth, or we cannot understand the truth. So if there's the light in the dark room, we can see all the visible objects clearly. Similarly, when we have wisdom, we can understand, know, and see the ultimate truth as they really are. It is also the opposite factor of ignorance. If we say ignorance is darkness, then wisdom will be the light. If we say ignorance is dark or black, we can also say wisdom is bright and the light. So we also have said something about investigation. So if we investigate unnecessary things, or listening to many people saying, such as the explanations of focus on the breath or whole breath body, for example, taught by many different people, we will get confused. Sometimes we try to understand the meditation with different formula, different theories, then we can get confused. Sometimes we must be very simple to know very simple objects. For example, when we talk about anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, we may analyze or investigate how far, how near, how big, how small, and so on. The more we analyze, the more we investigate, and the more we get confused. And sometimes we try to understand using many different theories. For example, by focusing on the breath, how is it possible to see the light? This is impossible, whatever logic you use. But in Buddha's teaching, it's practical. Then we also have many other analyses, for example, analyzing nimitta. You're trying to know the nimitta very much in detail. The more you try to analyze, the more it becomes complicated. So according to our perceptions, when our perception changes, the nimitta also change. That is why we should not analyze too much, changing our perception. By analyzing or investigating, if we have a lot of doubt or just increasing doubt, we should stop analyzing or investigating. So in brief, we should also know what to investigate or what not to investigate in order that we may have less doubt and more confidence. So there are many things beyond our imagination in Buddha's teaching. When we are going to meditate, our mind must be very simple. It's also very difficult to be simple, right? Mostly in modern community, to be simple is more difficult than to be complicated. So today we are going to talk about how to develop the investigations of enlightenment factors. So there are 7 ways to improve the enlightenment factor or investigations. So the first one is pariputaka. That means inquiring about aggregates, bases, elements, faculties, powers, and so on. There will be many different other questions according to our current conditions in our meditation. For example, like enlightenment fetters, noble paths, samatha or vipassana, and so on. So here also we must be wise enough to ask necessary questions. We also have to know what to ask and what not to ask. So there are many, many unclear points in the meditation. Even in anapanasati, there are many, many unclear points. So for example, what is really called whole breath body? Then what is really called subtle breath? How to overcome difficulty, and so on. Then we also have to know how nimitta appear. So there will be many different conditions. For some meditator, the light appear first. After a long time, they will see the nimitta. There are also some special meditator. They start seeing the nimitta, and then they see the light. Then we also have to know what are the obstacles or hindrances to improvement. Then similarly, what is really called accept concentration. In the accept concentration, how can we know that we have attained accept concentration? Similarly, jhana, how can we know that we have attained jhana concentration, and so on? There are many, many questions we have to ask according to the conditions. I think in anapanasati, you may have many questions. Most of the meditators ask very simple question. Bhante, how to be natural? This is a very difficult answer, right? They don't know how to be natural. So as we are breathing our daily life, we have to breathe in, breathe out when we are meditating. This is called natural breath. Then when they feel a lot of tension, a lot of stiffness in their face or somewhere around nostril, they may ask, why is it happening? When I say it's excessive efforts, so relax more natural focusing. They may ask, what does it mean, relax? Relax means as if you have to do nothing, make your mind free. This is called relax. So in brief, according to our current conditions, we must ask properly. If we ask many, many unnecessary questions or theories, it will get confused. And sometimes they may ask very high question. Bhante, how can we see the nimitta? Then I will answer very simply, okay, just keep focus on the breath normally. You know, when I come to Indonesia, many people ask, Bhante, what is it called nibbana? Right? Then I just answer very simple. It's very far from you, not practical. Okay, just focus on the breath. It's more practical, right? So that means sometimes we wish to know many, many things, many theories, which are very far from our level, then we can get confused. That's why it should be practical and a concise question will be more important when we are meditating. And sometimes they also ask, Bhante, how long does it take to see the nimitta or to attain jhana? Whenever they ask this kind of question, I simply answer, it does not come from the duration, it just comes from the skill. Although we meditate very long time, if we are not very skillful, we cannot attain anything. So we must know and skillful where to focus, how to focus, what to focus. If we know everything clearly, we can focus well, we can improve faster. As long as we don't know where to focus, how to focus, what to focus, we will be in the same stage all the time. If we are wise enough, then we will know how to focus and we will become skillful. So sometimes we also discussed about the Dhamma, but we don't have any special topic to discuss. In reality, when we are going to discuss Dhamma, we must have a topic, particular topic. For example, anapanasati. Just talk about anapanasati. Talk about many other things, and many other unnecessary things. This is not really important for meditators. So we can listen, Dhamma talk, we can also questions, we can also learn, reading Dhamma books, and so on. So after learning or questionings or discussion, we can also improve our knowledge about meditation. This is called the first way, paribhusakada, inquiring about aggregate and so on. So we can also know, we can also learn the aggregate when we are practicing vipassana. We can also learn basis when we are practicing vipassana. According to our current conditions, we must know many different things. So now, 2. Vatu Visara Kiriya, the purifications of basis. So that means we must clean our body, then like we have to take shower or something like that. If we are dusty or smelly, we cannot meditate very well. And similarly, washing clothes, also maybe cleaning the dwelling place, our residence. These are called Vatu Visara Kiriya. Not only that, for example, like cutting the nails, fingernails or toenails, right? Sometimes when we are meditating, we will touch our hands. Then there's a long nail, fingernails. Then it will scratch our body or a little bit pain. We cannot meditate very well. That's why we have to cut fingernails, toenails, or we have to shave our parts and our maybe hair or something like that. This is also important for meditators. So when you have to do something in your kuti or when you have to do something in your body, when you are meditating, your mind will go there. I have to do that one in my kuti. I have to do this one in my body. I have to cut nails. I have to shave my hair, something like that. Your mind will always go and think about it. That's why you cannot concentrate very well. Before you start meditating, settle everything. Then you may have known the wine lamp. If wine is not very clean, the flame also not very bright. If wine is clean, which is also very pure, and the flame will be brighter. Similarly, when our internal and external things are clean, our mind becomes sharp and strong. Then the third one, Indriya Samatha Pariparanata, imparting evenness to the 5 spiritual controlling faculties. So here we have to know what's really called Indriya, controlling faculties. So there are 5 controlling faculties, as we know: Saddha, faith, also Viriya, efforts, then Sati, mindfulness, Samadhi, concentration, and wisdom, Panya. So if one of the 5 is very strong and powerful or predominant, all other controlling faculties cannot work properly. It becomes an obstacle or difficulty. So now we are talking about wisdom. I don't need to talk about wisdom anymore, but we have to explain what's really meaning of Saddha, faith or confidence. So there are 4 types of faith according to Buddha's teaching. The first one is religious faith, Agamana Saddha. That is which is comprehensive faith in the teaching of the Buddha, possessed by Bodhisattva and noble disciples. This is the first type of faith. The second one is acquired faith, Adhikama Saddha, which is acquired by realizations of path and fruition knowledge. This is also unshaken faith or unchangeable faith. For example, you may know one lay devotees, Subhabuddha in lepers. When Mara approached him and talked about, oh, I haven't made some mistake. He also, in the case of Buddha, he approached Subhabuddha lepers and say, oh, I forgot to say something. There's some mistake in my Dhammatalk. When hearing that, the Subhabuddha realized he's not really Buddha. Then he said, you are Mara, right? Then he cannot discard anymore. So that means those who have already attained path and fruition knowledge have unshaken faith. They will not change their mind. And we also have another one, number 3, determined faith, Agapana Saddha, which is a result or absolute conviction by which one relies on dependent on the Buddhas, Dhamma, and Sangha. So this kind of faith is required for everybody when we are going to meditate. When we have this kind of faith, we can practice 3 trainings properly. So their determination is very powerful. They can determine. There is a truth, it's so, then they have unshaken faith. That's when they can practice better. Then we also have to know something's new here. When we have faith in 3 trainings, we can also improve faster. Similarly, we must also believe in the benefits of 3 trainings, that we can practice better. So the last one is inspired faith, pasada sada, which is no committal, liking, and respect for teaching of the Buddha. Then with that kind of faith, you can suppose to donate or to offer many different things, very big amounts, for example, but they may not have enough power to practice. So this kind of faith cannot support full commitment to the threefold training. I think I have a talk one time in Medan or somewhere. Not all the good donors are good meditators. I have said this one in Singapore many times. So I have to remind like that. There are many, many good donors, but not good meditators. They don't want to practice. So in brief, when we have faith, but we must be wise enough. Although we have faith, if we are not wise enough, we can believe in many different things. Then it becomes very harmful for our practice. So faith without wisdom is very dangerous and risky. Then contrary to it, sometimes we are very wise, but no faith or no confidence. Then it also the problem. We can be a weak person. So when we have very strong wisdom and also very weak faith, then we have a weaker mind, like a disease caused by the medicine is uncured. So you may know Benedetta Wakali. He had very strong faith in the Buddha. So he came and all day just to see the Buddha. Every day, except his personal time, was like taking shower, food, meal times, for example, he will go out. After meal, after his personal time, he will come and sit in front of the Buddha, just see the Buddha all the time. Then the Buddha also reminds him, Wakali, seeing this body is useless. You just see this body with full of excrement. Then you also have known the one special sentence. If you see the Dhamma, see me. If you see me, you see the Dhamma. Buddha have said this one to Wakali. When the Buddha forced him to leave, then he could meditate and he could attain hardship. So that means this is when we have very strong faith or saddha, but if our wisdom faculties become very weak, it's not very useful for our practice or improvement. You may also know one wandering ascetic called Sajjaka Paripajaka. He came to see the Buddha and debate with the Buddha about anatta, non-self. But he was defeated by the Buddha. He knows what the Buddha says is truth, but his mana, pride, is the problem. He accepts mentally, but he didn't openly talk to the Buddha. Even he didn't invite the Buddha. He didn't accept Buddha as a teacher or higher than him. Then he could not attain anything. So he knew many logic. He also had many theories, but although he knows many different things, he don't have faith in the Buddha. That's why he cannot improve anything. Although he passed away, he's just passed away as an ordinary person. So that means if our faith is very strong and powerful, we should develop effort or any other enlightenment factors instead of developing faith. Similarly, if our wisdom faculties is very strong and powerful, we should develop faith and any other enlightenment factors. So the first then although we have five controlling faculties, the first two is to balance wisdom and faith. So if our wisdom faculties become very weak, then we will not investigate how to improve. We will have unclear vision on the meditation. Then our mind will not be very active. Then we cannot be very mindful. We cannot have tranquility, and we cannot have concentration. We cannot have equanimity towards meditation subjects. So there are many other things to say here, but it will take a very long time. Another one is to balance effort and concentration. We also have to know what is really called effort. So later we have to talk about the enlightenment factor of effort. We also have to talk about the enlightenment factor of concentration. But anyway, briefly, we have two types of energy, bodily energy and mental energy. These two are also called bodily efforts and mental efforts. So we must know how to use our mental energy and bodily energy. Sometimes we use all the physical strength to improve. It becomes very tired. Sometimes we just use very strong mind power to know our main objects, our meditation objects. It becomes very tense and also many stressful, also a lot of distractions and restlessness. So we also have to know how to focus, how much effort do we have to use. For example, if we use too much bodily strength to know the breath, we may feel tense around your temple, nostril, and around the head. Finally, we may feel tense all over the body, not that much comfortable. Finally, we are scared of meditation. So sometimes we just use too much mental energy, mind power, to know the object. Then the more we make efforts, the more we have restlessness. That is why we must be wise enough to balance our efforts. Then we have another part, concentration. Sometimes we have very strong, powerful concentration, but our efforts are not strong enough to maintain. Then we cannot improve anymore again. So in this stage, when your concentration becomes very strong and effort become very weak, you may be like unconscious state. You know some particular object, but you cannot say what is that, some unclear object. So that means your concentration become very powerful, but your effort become very weak. So it's like unconscious. It's also like sleeping. You are very free and comfortable, but no more improvement. Okay, if we summarize, when your effort become very strong and concentration become very weak, you have a lot of restlessness knowingly. So the more you struggle, the more you have restlessness. When you have this kind of conditions, relax more. Restart. Don't be lazy to restart as a new meditator. So when you have very strong concentration and weak efforts, especially weak mental efforts, so your mind will run away unknowingly. You don't know when your mind is going or knowing other objects. Not only that, you may also feel like a sleepiness or unconscious. At the time, you cannot do anything anymore. So when your mind is too free and comfortable, this is the time to remind yourself to keep knowing main meditation subjects. In my previous Dhamma talk, I have already talked about mindfulness. So mindfulness is the key to balance all these controlling faculties. Okay, so now 3 is to balance controlling faculties. 4, Dhamma Bukkala Parivachana, that means avoiding the ignorant person. So here, Dhamma means unlearned or uneducated or not knowledgeable. This is called Dhamma. So that means if we can understand the ultimate reality, we are not dopanya. So if we know how to meditate, or if we have learned how to meditate, we cannot be dopanya. So we have two things to do. We must have learning knowledge or practicing knowledge. If we don't have learning knowledge or practicing knowledge, or if somebody does not have learning knowledge or practicing knowledge, we must not associate with that kind of people. They cannot help our practice. Like in Indonesia, it's okay. Right? If you are going to meditate, nobody will say that you are crazy. But in others, like maybe Western country, if their daughters or their sons is very serious meditator, then they will say, are you crazy? You're not working. You're not earning. Yeah, although we say dopanya, ignorance. So if they cannot support our practice, just talking about negative things, then we must avoid that kind of people. I think there are many people, they don't think meditation is good, right? Meditation is just wasting time without doing anything. They just think meditation is just for relaxing, not for improvement. When we have this kind of perceptions, then sure, the way we use meditation is different from Buddhism, Buddha's teaching. It will be a little bit risky for our improvement. Then, okay, now 5. Panya Wanda Bukala Sevanada, associated with the wise. So what is it really called Panya Wanda, the wise man or the wise person? Here in this context, we also have to know that proper teacher or proper guidance. If somebody can know how to practice vipassana, because this is the wise person. So especially here, we also mention, in the text also mentioned, you may know Samudaya, you may also know Udaya Bhaya Jnana, the knowledge of arising and perishing. In the arising stage, there are 25 ways of discerning. In the perishing stage, also there are 25 ways of discerning. Altogether, 15 ways of discerning in arising and perishing. If somebody can know all these methods, this is called wise people, according to these suttas. So if we can find somebody who can attain path and fruition knowledge, or somebody who can attain jhana, this is also okay to associate or to follow his training. So if we don't have this kind of proper teachers, at least we must have the one who have learned Tipitaka. This is also important. Tipitaka is our guideline to improve or to attain Nibbana. So here, Panya means learning knowledge or practicing knowledge. Practicing experience also, you can say. So if somebody has both learning knowledge, learning Dhamma Pali text, also practicing knowledge or practicing experiences, then we should associate with that kind of teacher. So whenever we have doubts, we can ask, we can make our vision clear. It will be very helpful. That's why we also need proper guidance or proper teachers or proper accompanies or friends. So 6 is very high. That one is Gambira Jnana Jiriya Pacharakana, reflecting on the profound difference of how to perceive process of the aggregates, modes of elements, sense bases, and so on. So that means if we reflect on aggregates, bases, and elements, it's very high insight knowledge. Especially when we are designing vipassana, we can do it. When we are practicing samatha, we cannot do it. So that means if you have studied Abhidhamma, it will be good enough for this kind of reflections. So now the last one, 7, the Dhatimodata, the inclining, sloping or binding towards the development of enlightenment factors of investigation. So that means our minds must always incline to the investigation, whether we are right or wrong, good or bad, improving or just stopping. So if we can analyze properly, we can improve. In modern community, many people talk about self-awareness. So if we know what is the obstacle, what make our improvement stop, we can handle and we can solve the problem. If we don't know, we cannot solve the problem. So I have said, Dhammavuttaya Sambhotanga, the enlightenment factor of investigation is wisdom. I also have said, wisdom is the light. For example, when you are driving at night, if your car headlight is very, very dim, you don't have clear vision, you cannot drive fast. So when your car headlight is very bright, you have clear vision, although you drive fast, you are safe. Similarly, now in meditation, if we are wise enough, we can improve faster, we have clearer vision. Sometimes our headlight is very, very poor, dim, we don't have clear vision, we cannot improve faster. So if we can develop the enlightenment factor of investigation, then we can also improve our daily life practice. Okay, today I will stop here. May you all be able to have clear vision ahead. May you all be able to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation, and may you all be able to realize the final cessation, Nibbana.
Wandami Sayadaw Sukihotu. We are now entering question and answer session.
Sayadaw. The question is actually it's not really clear, but as far as I remember, Sayadaw explained about two things. The first one is learning knowledge and practicing the knowledge. Maybe the questioners referring to these two things, and maybe Sayadaw might want to explain further about learning knowledge and practicing knowledge as far as Sayadaw can explain.
Okay, learning knowledge means we can learn many theory in Buddha's teaching. For example, learning suttas, learning Vinaya, learning Vidhamma. So after learning many things, we can also know many ways to practice. It's not practical yet, but we have known many theories. After learning theories, we can apply all the theories to practice. Now we can experience what's the good things to do, how to balance everything. This can be practical experience. For example, like a nimitta. Nimitta in the Pali canon, nimitta in text and nimitta, what we see will be different. Like you see the salt in the plate, and also you touch the salt with your tongue. There will be different meaning, different experiences. So when we learn, it's like a salt on the plate or the cup. But when we try to meditate or practice, it's the salt we touch with our tongue. Okay?
Sayadaw, there is one other question here. The question is about the five factor faculty. How can we develop and level up and balance all those five factors when we, as a beginner, are about to start the meditating?
Okay, so most of the meditators in the very beginning, they put very strong efforts. They are in a hurry to improve. This is the problem. So that means to be able to balance efforts and concentration, just relax more. As long as you can know breathing normally, don't make any extra efforts. Especially when you have a lot of thoughts, don't put too much effort. It will get worse. Okay, this is the first thing about effort, right? Similarly, we have wisdom, for example, analyzing too much. Now you may analyze how far, how near, how subtle, how gross, The more you analyze breathing, the more change it. Finally, you get confused. You have more doubt about the breath. Is it natural breath, or is it artificial breath, or you are controlling breath, or many doubts about the breath? You cannot improve easily. So to avoid excessive investigation, so you must know simply. Don't try to know very much in detail. So that means you may have more confidence, right? Okay, now the last dance is about concentration. Sometimes you feel very free and comfortable. People like comfort, pleasant feeling. Then your mind will follow pleasant feeling. Your effort becomes gradually weaker and weaker. You cannot maintain that concentration anymore. But you cannot improve anymore also because you like comfort and pleasant feeling. So especially when you have very strong rapture and tranquility and joy, your mind will follow all these tranquility, rapture, and joy. Your effort becomes weaker and weaker. When you have this kind of joy and rapture, you have to remind yourself to keep knowing main objects. Especially, for example, breathing meditation, keep knowing breathing. If you cannot remind or keep knowing one object, sure, your effort becomes weaker. You may fall into sleep or fall into the bhavanga, like unconscious states, or you may have unknowing thoughts. This is how to balance controlling faculties for beginners, right?
You would like to know further about the Paccavekkhana Sayadaw?
Actually, Paccavekkhana is after attaining path and fusion knowledge, right? But we have, for example, Sotapanna. We may have different Paccavekkhana, reviewing the path knowledge, reviewing the fruition knowledge, the reviewing Nirvana, altogether 3, right? Then 2 more. Reviewing the defilements he has eradicated. Then the last one, reviewing the defilements, reviewing remaining defilements which are not yet eradicated. So similarly, in Sakadagami, Anagami, there will be 5 types of reviewing knowledge, right? But when somebody attain headship, there were only 4 reviewing knowledge, 4 reviewing knowledges. Reviewing the path knowledge, reviewing the fruition knowledge, reviewing Nirvana, reviewing eradicated defilements, only 4. Because they have already eradicated all types of defilements, right? No more remaining defilements.
Sayadaw, the sisters asked about penetrating Dhamma, Sayadaw, the Dhamma penetrating, and she would like to know further about this. Please, Sayadaw, help to explain further about penetrating the Dhamma, and if Sayadaw can, Sayadaw, please help to give an example, Sayadaw.
Okay, so there I have already explained one example about an arrow shoot by an skillful archer, right? So similarly, when we have very good wisdom faculties, or when we have Dhammavicaya Sambhojjhanga, very powerful Dhammavicaya Sambhojjhanga, we can also know the truth easily. For example, 4 elements. Although we say focus naturally, don't create anything, don't force too much. If we are not very wise enough to force too much, we feel tension in our body, not that much comfortable. So if we are wise enough, we can easily know it. We can easily know the 4 elements. This is the very simple example. Okay. There are many other things, right? For example, we are going to talk about 5 decades. Although we simply say 5 decades, but if we don't have enough wisdom, we cannot know what is the 5 decades. So then when we are wise enough, or when we have very strong wisdom faculties, we can penetrate it easily. This is the power of insight knowledge or wisdom. When she was practicing anapanasati, fear arises. How to do it? So sometimes when we have a lot of quietness in our minds, we are not very used to it with that kind of quietness, especially when we are alone. then fear may arise. At the time, don't think about quietness too much. The more you reflect or think about quietness, the stronger fear will arise. That's why, okay, be careful when you have too much quietness. Just trying to remind yourself, do no object or just do some other chanting until your mind become very stable. Okay, this is the normal for everybody. When mind become very quiet.
Wandami said, I have no idea how to set the thing. Said, I have a question in Tripitaka. There's this mention about the Pati Sambhida Jnana, and not Akan has this knowledge. Does this Pati Sambhida Jnana is the development of have the linkage with the higher form of practice of Sata Bojjhanga? Then how should one practice to perfect it to attain this Pati Sambhida Jnana? Does one need Adhitthana to obtain it? Yeah, please, Sayadaw. Thank you.
Okay, we have 4 or 5 things to achieve that kind of knowledge. It also includes like a Pariputra. We have to ask Noti passage from the Pali Canon or something like that. We must have learned Buddha's teaching in the past lives or something like that. This is also basics, right? Then also we also have very important things. That is it. Last week, Dhammatalk, how I talk about Katapachakata Vada. Right? Katapachakata Vada means when we are going for Bindapata, we must go there by meditating. On the way back, also meditating. We also have to practice like that. So there are some other requirements to achieve that kind of knowledge. Okay, I should search also. Answer this one first. Okay, so here we have many things, right? There are 6 things to get Bodhisattva. Some of them are past parami, some of them are present. The first one is a Pubbha Yoga. Pubbha Yoga, sorry. Pubbha Yoga means practicing Vipassana in the previous lives. Then second one is Bahusacca, that means knowledgeable. He must be knowledgeable in Dhamma. So the third one is Desa Bahasa. Bahasa means language, right? Learning language. That means especially learning Pali, also learning other language. So especially Pali. Then third one is, okay, third one is Agama. Agama means learning Buddha's teaching. Then the fourth one is like learning Buddha's teaching, right? Then fifth, asking Noti passage from Pali Canon or commentary, and some of the passages are very difficult to understand, right? Asking somebody and some decision how to understand that one. So that means, okay, now we have 6. 6 is Adhikama. Adhikama means attaining Adhiti Sodapanna. And that was the Guru Sanisaya. That means associating or maybe learning under the guidance of a wise teacher. Then 8 is Metta Sambati, associating with the wise friends. Okay, these are called Prisamida, right? The cause of Prisamida.
Sayadaw. Sayadaw, the brother questions is asking about the Cittaviti, Sayadaw. About the Cittaviti. How to say the can Sayadaw explain about when a meditator entering or attain a Sotapanna Pala and Sotapati Magga and Sotapati Pala? Can Sayadaw explain about this attainment related to quietness that Sayadaw explained earlier in the Dhammatalk?
Earlier explained?
Sayadaw earlier explained about the quietness when a meditator attains when they.
Oh, I see. No.
Yeah. So the relationship between the quietness and then when a yogi attain a Sotapati Magga and Sotapati Pala, Sayadaw.
Oh, this is how we do different things. Okay. If we talk about quietness in meditation, that means when we have a lot of tranquility, our mind becomes very quiet. This is how we can experience in meditation. But in the sense of path and fruition knowledge, of maybe fruition attainment, samapati, our mind will know only nibbana. We cannot say quietness. Right? We just know the ultimate peace, nibbana as object. These two things will be different.
Oh, I have a lot of hesitation when making decision about the future. How to overcome the hesitations?
Okay, hesitation. If something is unclear, there will be hesitation already, no problem. You may need only more learning knowledge, right? I don't know your life in China. I cannot advise easily, right? Okay. Etawata cha amehi sambatam bunya sambatam sabbe deva numodandu sabbe buddha numodandu sabbe satta numodandu sabba sambati siddhiyam idam me nyatinam hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo idam me nyatinam hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo idam me nyatinam hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo idam me punyam asawakayam waham hotu idam me punyam nippanasa pateyo hotu mama punya bhagam tapasatanam pachemi te sabbe me samam punya bhagam labantu sadhu 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 Buddha sasanam jirang ditadu. Buddha sasanam jirang ditadu. Buddha sasanam jirang ditadu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.